I'm good, fellas. We still are in week 1. We got a game left today, and it has been outstanding. I'm happy to talk about it, man.
Now let's start with maybe a school that's not happy, and that's Clemson. Is all hope lost for Clemson now after losing that opener to Georgia, or what's something that maybe the Tiger fans can hang their hat on where things could get a little bit better later on in the season?
As I check my notes, not a damn thing. Look, the problem that Clemson has is Clemson needed to be the biggest Florida State fans in the world last night, because if Florida State were to knock off number 9 Notre Dame, you have Florida State left on your schedule, and perhaps that's a game that you could use to make an argument to get in the college football playoff if you win the ACC championship. But the ACC got skunked, man. Like, Miami gets drilled by Alabama. North Carolina gets upset by Virginia Tech. And, of course, Clemson can't score a touchdown, has all of 2 yards rushing against Georgia. It's a terrible look for them. And now, the best team in the ACC ain't even in the ACC. It's in an entanglement with the ACC. It's in an open marriage with the ACC, and that is Notre Dame. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to hear not one more word about Clemson playing in this year's college football playoff.
Really? So, obviously, first of all, you're right, the schedule is kind of embarrassing. So, let's do it's only September 6th, but game. So, you're saying, what about, what do we got? Like a one-loss Pac-12 champion, one-loss SEC non-champion. You're saying they should all be in over Clemson. Is that what I just heard?
Yes, because strength of schedule has to factor into what you're doing there, right? That's one of the playoff committee's criteria is strength of schedule. So if you're looking at one-loss Clemson versus, say, a one-loss Oregon team that beats an Ohio State, Oregon gets in. You get what I'm saying?
What if Oregon gets destroyed by Ohio State and they lose and that's their only loss?
Did they run the table undefeated against a ranked opponent? Because that's kind of my point here, right?
Yeah.
No, seriously. You're saying that there are no ranked opponents left for Oregon on their schedule. If that's true, we got a different argument to have here. But as I'm telling you about Clemson, there are no ranked opponents left. Unless you're really going to try to gas up Boston College, be my guest, but I doubt it.
The RJ Young joining us here on Fox Sports Radio. I've always been under the September doesn't matter, but I actually agree with you when it comes to this time around because of Clemson. What about Georgia's situation? Because they were the winner of that game. By the way, Doug Gottlieb show here on Fox Sports Radio. He's Aaron Torres. I'm Dan Beyer. Georgia gets the win, but the offense doesn't score a touchdown. Is that something to be concerned about if you're a Dogs fan or a JT Daniels fan? How concerned should Georgia be even after winning that game?
Absolutely, you should be concerned because perhaps the only other defense that you're going to face that's that good would be Alabama in an SEC championship game, and we would all expect you to win that, right, to get into the playoff. It's happened before. You can lose that game and get into the playoff. We know because we think that highly of the SEC. But on the other hand, Georgia's got a true scoring defense. Like, the only touchdown was a pick 6 off of a guy that we all said was in the Heisman conversation. So you have that defense to fall back on as you are working out, okay, what is JT Daniels good at? What can we do? We didn't have Darnell Washington. We didn't have Eric Gilbert. We didn't have George Pickens. Those things also matter because you have to take into account who these guys have when they play. And you beat Clemson on a neutral site. Like, yes, you should be concerned that you didn't score any points and it was really hard to move the football. But 2011 LSU Alabama happened and we got a national champion out of that game, right? I think the same thing is true for Georgia. They're in a good spot. They're just not in the best spot.
So, RJ, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you're from Oklahoma and potentially a Sooners fan. And I'm going to admit something that I shouldn't. I was locked in on Wisconsin-Penn State. I kind of put the hay in the barn with the Oklahoma-Tulane game, and I missed the rally late. So get me caught up on what I missed. And as an OU guy or somebody that's from Oklahoma, are you at all concerned what you saw in late third, early fourth quarter of that game?
Aaron, hell yes, I'm concerned. Like, I came up an Oklahoma fan. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Went to TU, went to OU, went to OSU for grad school for PhD. Look, the problem that you have here is that it's Tulane. And, ordinarily I'd just say Tulane, but it's Tulane who was displaced due to Hurricane Ida, had install in Birmingham, and had to play a home game in Norman in front of 84,000 Oklahoma fans. And you're up 34-14 after going down 14-7. And then you let off the gas here. And this, for me, is particularly harrowing because I picked Oklahoma to win the national championship. And that's not a national championship football team that we watched on Saturday. There's a lot to fix there, but it is fixable, right? You had 2 takeaways in that game. Your quarterback still went 30 or 39 for 300, even as sometimes you look like Brett Favre trying to fit it into a window because he can. You need to cut that stuff out. And Lincoln Riley was in a position where apparently he wanted to play everybody, but I didn't play. I wanted to play. And I'm just saying, like, if you're going to salt it away. So you end up with 40-35 as Michael Pratt and those boys played their butts off. Like, I was so impressed with Tulane, man, because if anybody had any cause to mail in a football game this weekend, it would be those dudes. And they showed up not only looking to be competitive, they were basically 6 inches from being in a place to win the football game in the fourth quarter. So, yes, you ought to be concerned as an Oklahoma fan.
Always a special place in my heart for Tulane. I think it's the best logo in all of college. The green wave, I love it. The updated one, the one that they wear on their helmet, my absolute favorite. RJ Young joining us here on Fox Sports Radio. The Big Ten looks pretty good right now, but the Big Ten looks like in a way where, all right, Wisconsin loses, but Penn State wins. Indiana loses, but Iowa dominates them. Did you like how the Big Ten opened up this season? You had Ohio State on the road at Minnesota, and is this something that maybe other conferences should end up looking at doing in the future? Are you a fan of the Big Ten starting with the openers like they did this year?
Oh, 100%. I was at Minnesota, Ohio State. That game was amazing. I'm so sad to see that Mo Ibrahim won't be able to play the rest of the year. He's going to have season-ending surgery, but he was magnificent. 30 carries, 163 yards in that game. But also, check this out. The Pac-12 North goes 1-5 to open the season, and the one win was a nail-biter against Fresno State by Oregon. Bad luck, right? Montana takes a win from Washington. Meanwhile, in the Big Ten East, Maryland won, Rutgers won, Penn State won, Michigan State won, and Michigan won, and Ohio State won. The only loser in that was Indiana, right, who played a really good Iowa team. I think that, A, you got to showcase, hey, we're a premier conference. We'll beat up on each other. It's okay. And B, if you come out with 6 out of 7 wins to start the season, we look at you differently, right? And that's the way I think it should be. I really like that they did this. I really like that they put up some matchups that we all wanted to see. Like, I did not hate Minnesota, Ohio State. Certainly didn't hate Penn State, Wisconsin. I think the Big Ten is in a position to really make some noise in regard to who is the best conference in college football, provided they keep winning football games.
RJ, if I told you 1 year from now, end of week 1, who would you say is the LSU football coach at the end of week 1, 2022?
Oh, goodness. Don't like to call for guys' jobs. I will say when you walk into a stadium and you tell somebody to bring their behind and not say behind with their sissy blue shirt, and then you get stole on 38-27, and then they troll you ultimately with get the gap by my man's Lil Elk. And for those of y'all that don't know, they played Get the Gat at the White House celebration when they won the national championship game, and then UCLA used that to troll them after winning them. It's going to be hard for Ed Orgeron. He's going to have to show that he's competing this year for them to keep up, but he's also got a contract that I don't know that they want to buy him out of. I think you're just going to get what you get with Ed Orgeron, right? And you'll get 2019 seasons and you'll get 2020 seasons. It's just about how long does LSU want to ride that roller coaster. And right now, they're riding with Ed Orgeron.
Final one for me, just for RJ Young on the heels of that point. How much does Alabama's success play into it? Because if you look at LSU's history, I mean, I don't think Ed Orgeron is Gene Chizik, but he could be Gene Chizik. I mean, how much does Alabama play into all of this?
It's an interesting point you raise, right? Because it's not Alabama, it's Nick Saban, right? Like, nobody cared about Alabama until 2009. Like, and even then, it took him 2 years. It took a loss to Louisiana Monroe. That's what you're competing against. You wanted to be in the SEC West. That means you got to go through Nick Saban every single week. I mean, Jimbo Fisher's doing the same thing, and nobody's calling for his job, right? He just got an extension. Yeah. So we all acknowledge that it's Alabama's world, and we just live in it. Like, Saban's got the gauntlet. He snapped his fingers. We live in his universe. I think right now you can't afford to lose to A&M is the way I look at LSU. You got to go beat A&M. You got to beat Ole Miss. You got to beat Mississippi State. You got to beat all the people you're supposed to beat, and one of those teams happened to be UCLA this year.
He's RJ Young, our good friend from Fox Sports. He's a college football national writer and analyst. And check out the #1 show where Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State, joined you yesterday. RJ, we appreciate it, man. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Aaron, Dan, thank you so much. Dan, you're the man. I love you.
Love you too, man. Get RJ on Twitter, at RJ_Young. It is the Doug Gottlieb Show. He is Aaron Torres.